Hi, everybody. Welcome to Boulton from Boulton. This is the show where my brother Josh and I set each other up for lively hockey talk and banter. Oh, I see I've got Dale Hawerchuk as my co-host today, I guess, with a suspicious reflection there. Josh, are you there?
I am here.
Oh, wow, you're here. Well, how's it going over there?
It's going great.
Well, I want to say to people, okay, you see Josh has got the Dale Hawerchuk up. Obviously, we've all know about the news of Dale Hawerchuk's passing recently. Obviously, we're a little late commenting on this. We had meant to do it last show, and then it just got lost in the notes, and I had forgotten that was what we wanted to talk about. Well, here we are. Just want to basically, Josh has a story about Dale Hawerchuk he'd like to share. I would just like to share one kind of my own reflection on what Dale Hawerchuk was in the in that era, in the era where we were growing up playing hockey, and how significant he really was, because it's all about obviously Lemieux, Gretzky, Stevie Y back here, but yet he's one of these players who would have been the guy had it not you just happened to be in the era of these giants, right? And I, for one, obviously I'm a Detroit fan, a Steve Yzerman fan, and my room was filled with Steve Yzerman posters all over the place. But yet, I did have a Dale Hawerchuk poster on my wall. I didn't even really think much about Dale Hawerchuk much, didn't really pay attention to the Jets and him, but yet I had a poster. Now, it was like an anti-drug poster or something like that I got for free, but nonetheless, I put it up because he was just like Dale Hawerchuk. He's just a name that was that big around that time. So there's not really much of a story in it, but it just kind of indicates to me how significant he was, that I spent quite a significant amount of time having him up with a huge poster among my Stevie Ys. But Josh, you have a not even a better one, a real story about Dale Hawerchuk. Why don't you share your experience with Dale?
Well, I don't know how I'm going to top that, but I met Dale and Wendell Clark actually at the same time. They were doing a seminar in Truro about retirement and goal setting and how you set new goals. And so I remember asking them, actually, the question I asked was like, how long did it take you before you set a new goal in your post-career life? And, at what point in your career did you start thinking about that next stage? At what point in your career did you start to think about life after hockey? And I remember both of them specifically answered, oh, you never think about it while you're playing because you don't want to. Playing in the NHL is the greatest job in the world, and you just want to live it out for as long as you possibly can, and you don't want to think about it ending while you're doing it. So that was something that I was like, geez, that's because they both have pretty successful lives after hockey. Mm-hmm. So you'd think that maybe they had planned it out or thought about it a little bit, but they were both like, no, we were clinging until the last second. And then after the fact, this here poster is something that my brother-in-law had hanging up in his father's barn when he was younger. And it was just always this, I don't know what it is. It had the photocopied Dale Hawerchuk signature right there.
It's a popular photo.
And what we did was we would play, he had foosball and I had air hockey, and we'd play that or darts or something, and whoever won the game would get to keep Dale Hawerchuk in their house until we played again, and then the next person won. We'd alternate that way. And so when I heard Dale was coming to town in Truro, I had to go get it signed. So after the presentation they gave, they sat down at the table and I got lined up, and they were giving away pucks and stuff, signing pucks and things for people to sign, because not a lot of people brought stuff to have signed. So he's just signing it away at the table, go, oh, yes, thank you, not even really looking out. And then I slammed this on the table in front of him. And he's just going like, yes, thank you. Whoa, that's an old one. And then he signed it like it's the exact same signature.
I was gonna say he's awfully consistent in his signature there, isn't he?
Except the only thing he added was, of course, there it says Hall of Fame Class of '01 was the only difference, because
I guess he wasn't writing that on his original autograph.
But it's pretty much exactly the same. And I just love that it got his attention, that he actually noticed it and stopped short kind of when he when he saw it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's something I'll always remember. And of course, to have this as the keepsake is quite a special thing now, I mean, especially now. And to echo your words about Dale Hawerchuk, like when he played, like the only reason that people don't know him as a Wayne Gretzky or Steve Yzerman is because he played on the Jets. Like the Jets were actually very, very good. But when you look at like the Metropolitan Division for the last few years here, you got teams, you know, like the Islanders are now just coming out. But I mean, Philadelphia, that Washington, Pittsburgh, that was the hardest division.
Columbus
to be in. Everyone was so good in it.
Carolina.
The 2 wild card spots come from, like, exactly. All those teams are very, very relevant now because in the salary cap era, they can make a name for themselves and try and stay consistent. But back in the Dale Hawerchuk days, that's what the division he had to play in was.
Wasn't it the Smythe
division? Smythe with the Flames. The Flames and the Oilers.
Laney McDonald, you know, like Flames.
Just,
that's that one, and beyond.
Between the Oilers and the Flames, they won 6 cups in the decade or whatever, like where Dale Hawerchuk was playing. So the Jets were right there. They just weren't quite good enough to get past that hump, which is unfortunate because he was like the top dog. He was just as good as those guys in that division, and all-time. He ranks on the all-time point getters list. He was very, very special to watch. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I like hearing the comments from him and Wendell Clark about that. It says a lot to me about what what a lot of people call presence. And it's about living in, not in the moment as in living in the moment and don't think about your future, but like really appreciating the moment because life is, I always say on my other show, life is happening now. And if you're not appreciating that and paying attention to what's going on, that's it. There's no, I'm going to get here and then you enjoy that. Well, then if you're not enjoying it now, when you get there, are you going to really pay attention to that and enjoy it? Like it doesn't work. The present is all there is really, right? There's the present and the future. And so I really appreciate those comments from those guys that they were like sucking the life out of it, living it to the fullest. And I'm sure they had a little bit of thought to the future on some level, but no, they were like playing their career, dedicated to what they were doing and enjoying it, loving it. They're living life. So you can't regret or lament that as far as Dale. And you saw what he did post career and just what kind of guy he was, an ambassador. Yeah, so you can see anyway with Dale Hawerchuk, like just looking back on that era is so fun to do all the time, and all the names and the kind of how big hockey was when you're a young person. These guys were big. It almost seems like these days we're a little closer to the game. It's almost like the guys aren't like from another planet or something. They're almost like real guys that we know, and you can imagine their lives almost. Whereas at that time it was just like heroes, and Dale Hawerchuk was just among those giants of that kind of thing. And to look back and, you know, unfortunately the circumstances make you look back on it, but pay attention to him right now. But to think about him feels really good, and just be like, wow. There was a guy, there was another one of those big players that really, you know, made me love hockey and gave me something to look up to. So anyway, well, there it all is, folks. Let's, I guess we'll move on here, Josh, to another thing that you wanted to bring up was on our second episode, I believe it was the one called about an asterisk next to the Stanley Cup. There was all that talk about putting an asterisk next to the Stanley Cup champ because, you know, this isn't a real champion. There's all conditional and all this stuff. And it's just like, what? And then you made your comment about,
if anything, for me, you could put an asterisk beside the winner of this season as a positive thing. Don't put an asterisk and say it doesn't count. Put an asterisk and say this is the greatest champion of all time.
So, but now you have something that you wanted to add to that and reiterate, or something new that's occurred to you in that, on that point. Go ahead.
Well, there's already enough going on. Can you believe it's been, what? It was August 1st when it started. It's been 30 days of this amazing playoff experience. Like life in the bubble. That's got to be an adjustment. We already had some players have some issues with that. And like the playing around. What the heck was that garbage as far as playoffs? And yet it was the most exciting thing in the world at the same time. And then now they had to go through a work stoppage. Like, the playoffs just shut down in the second round. Like what? And it's not even in between rounds, and you just wait a little longer for your round. You are in the right smack dab in the middle of another round of playoffs, and then there's a stoppage of play.
I know, and it's not just a stoppage about like there's a technical trouble or something. It's a social thing that people are dealing with as well. So you got all that in your mind, and then you're gonna come back, and it's just really tough to focus on your game and deal with. I mean, this is something. Keep going. I'm just add that much.
What else is you nailed it. It's like COVID wasn't just like some problem that they had to stop because there wasn't power to the rinks or something. It's a global pandemic. It's still going on now. People have to live entirely differently than they were, before this happened. And these people are trying to play hockey in the midst of all that in some made up universe, like under the dome. And again, give the NHL full credit for making that what it is. They're doing an amazing job, especially compared to other sports. But it's, like I said, it's not just some sort of just nuisance that you have to deal with. It's a major problem. So that's already a mental tax. And then, like you said, this new stoppage wasn't just because of some technical difficulty or whatever. It was a whole other, this is like some historical shift, some paradigm in the universe again that's happening. It's all in the same year. And you're asking people again to change the way they view life. And and then all of a sudden, that's the second, all of a sudden you got to get back to that. That is the second time that your mind is just overwhelmed with the topic, with the subject. And it's just all a lot to take in one little 30-day span.
I know, and then
and we're only in the second round.
Yeah,
there's still 2.5 rounds left.
2.5 rounds left, and it's high stakes, right? Again, we can see amidst these other things, they do reflect how people's sports are sports, and we do understand that. But this doesn't mean they're unimportant in life. They're very important in life. They give us something to look up to, something to aspire to, as far as seeing excellence and perseverance and all of these things. Is why we declare champions and we celebrate them and all this stuff. It's exciting, right? So it's not unimportant, but yeah, relative to other things it is. But yet, so what I'm saying is that it is high stakes. Like, these players are getting paid millions to do a job that a lot of people care about, and it's important. Like, a lot of people's livelihoods are connected to how well they do. So they've got to keep it focused and play, obviously, for the love of the game and for wanting to win, but also for the business of it too. So they got to keep all of these things under wraps and still perform. So, I mean, if you can perform and become this champion, there ain't no asterisks about it, unless you want to say, as you said, to be the greatest of all time. Now, I said the first time you said that people could argue, well, that's exactly it. Like, you get people rattled, and then some champion could sneak up and win it while everybody's so rattled and we don't really know who was the real best team and all that. But again, I said it was never about, it's not always the best team or something. It's who can play. Historically, I always think that sports are basically a simulation of war in effect, right? It's it's a civil way to put people up against someone else. Say, here are the rules, here are the guidelines. We'd keep it safe. We're not killing anybody, and let's go, right? Between countries or between people who want to get together and have their team put up against someone else. And with that, historically in wars and stuff, it's not about, oh, let's wait till everybody's okay, or he's not feeling well, or let's make sure these conditions are good. It just happens, and history determines you won or you lost. They won the battle of whatever, and it changed the history of the world or whatever. It didn't matter what was going on. You had to perform. And a lot of guys, especially historically, fought battles over and over again. Life or death, war battles. So, I mean, there is something to being someone who can persevere under whatever conditions, and you are the champ. You don't put an asterisk next to battles in history because of whatever condition happened to happen. Stuff happens. Whoever's the champ every year, you're the champ. You've gone through it all. You've dealt with everything people have dealt with, and you've come out on top. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to determine people who can persevere in the face of adversity. And there's a boatload of it this time.
Okay, so make it clear. If we're going to asterisk this, I get it, but it has to be for a positive reason to say that this is a real champion and probably the realest. I mean, they're like Harry Potter having to get through and solve the Chamber of Secrets. Like, every time they take a step, there's a new puzzle. They're going to have to fall through another dimension by the time the finals happen. It's bananas what they're going through. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to tell me, like you said, people are pretty. Florida Panthers were not the second best team in the '96 playoffs. I don't care what anyone says. And there's a reason Colorado beat them so easily. But Florida got there. Like
Yep.
Edmonton Oilers were not the second best team in the 2006 playoffs, and the Carolina Hurricanes were not the best team in the 2006 playoffs. But those were the two finalists because they were able to find a way to beat all the other teams and get there. That's what happens. So, it's not always about who's the best. It's about who can get through all those four series in the best way possible.
And good God, we do it better than just particular battles. We have a best of 7. I mean, it's, I don't know how you can get more, give people more opportunities to really assert themselves in that. So certainly what you said, Asterisk, like as a, not even Asterisk, but it's a real champion, everybody, come on. And then you could go make the argument further that it's the best of all time or whatever, but there's at least no argument that, this is not a real champ. We said it on that second show. We're saying it again though, because it's coming up again, just in light of all this stuff. It's like, again, I can't believe how crazy this is. So in any case, it's very exciting. You also mentioned the stoppage they had. Your t-shirt seems to say life will resume after playoffs. Is that what's going on in that t-shirt?
Yes.
Well, if you're saying that life shuts down for playoffs because it's all about that, well, then what was going on in life for you for a couple of days when there were no sports at all? No basketball playoffs, no hockey playoffs. There was no baseball. There was no nothing. I mean, did life resume, or was it on hold, or what was going on?
Life resumed for a little bit. It was just life. My life is pretty much the same anyway. I mean, pretty much.
You're watching hockey or not? Yeah, because you just do your life
kids
with a thing around your neck watching hockey games, or you don't have the thing around your neck, but you're living the same life. You don't get to
still
stop.
living the same life. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I know. It was just fun. It was almost like we had to, I wonder how people experience this. People can tell us where you guys are at, just like how you dealt with it. Get in the comments, tell us, share your experience of it. But it was just for most people, I feel like it was, I have to like do something now. I have to, I don't have this distraction like sports or somewhere you could just go and have something to do. But we didn't have it for a couple of days, and it was something. So I guess life went back for you, and then it will resume again after playoffs. So I thought what we'll do here, Josh, is there's a few things to say so far. We're some 4 games into each series. So there's a few things to say about what's been going on. I'd just like to see kind of quickly what you see in some of these things. I know we've mentioned a couple of points already. The Vegas-Canucks series, this is 2-1 at the moment as we stand right now. And one thing I noticed big time was just how lopsided each game was, or how much it turned, right? I think that some other series, I said to you, seem a little, obviously there's some big momentum and big times where the team's looking dominant, but there's a little bit of pushback. Overall, it's a balanced series in a way, even if they're up 2-0, say in the Colorado, it was Dallas was up 2-0, and then Colorado came back. It still wasn't like, holy, they're killing them, right? Well, that Vegas one, the first game, it just looked like men versus boys. And it was almost like, we picked Vancouver. What are they going to geez, what's going to happen here? They're just getting killed by this Vegas machine. And then they came back the next game, and it looked like Vegas was like, how is Vegas ever going to win a game against these guys? Because Vancouver killed them. So it just looked like that. And then they come back in game 3, and you think, okay, so now it's evened out. They'll have a real series, and somebody's going to obviously come out on top. But no, it was Vegas just dominated them again. It looked like almost like, how could Vancouver possibly will themselves into getting through this and winning this game? It's impossible. So it's 2-1 now, and it looks like good. Vegas looks really good. But then again, you don't know what you're going to get now. So I don't know what's going on in game 4 tonight.
It reminded me of when I used to go watch the races at the racetrack, at the horse races at the track in Truro. And, I like to bet $2 on a race, whatever. You bet $2, you win 10 cents if you get it right, whatever, just for fun. And, I'm betting on a horse to win. And sometimes the horse will break stride, and it's like sometimes that happens in the middle of the race, or sometimes your horse is close and then the other horse has passed them all at the end, and it's kind of exciting, right? But there's other times where you bet on a horse and it starts to run like sideways, and all the other horses are going straight, and it's like, which horse did you pick? Where is he? Oh, he's still at the starting gate trying to figure himself out. And that's kind of what Vancouver was like. And it's especially fitting to have that analogy for Vegas, because it's like the movie Spaceballs when they're trying to figure out how fast they have their ship go, and they pick ludicrous speed. That is what Vegas operates at all the time. It's amazing. I can't believe how fast they are.
You mentioned their speed. Another show, yeah.
Have you seen the games? Like, they're disgusting. If you lose the puck and they're in behind, it's way in your zone before you realize, oh, I turned the puck over. The transition is just unreal, and they just don't stop. So that's what it was like for Vancouver. And I remember saying, I think of all the teams, Vancouver is probably the team that could keep up with that. And then they just got spanked, and it's like, maybe I was wrong on that one. But then Vancouver, of course, Vegas started to bully them a little bit, and if they just play hockey, they started to get into the physical thing and embarrass Vancouver a little bit. And Vancouver, Pedersen wasn't having any of this. And the next game, he was basically, I'm digging in, and I'm standing my ground, and I'm showing you. And they did. It was like you said, a completely different series. And then, of course, to come back the next game, and it happened again.
It's back to Vegas being that fast team that you said. And how about Alex Tuck, this guy? I feel like he has scored in 4 straight games, right? So when they said, I was like, oh, that makes sense, because it occurred to me, I was like, it seems like if he's just near the net, I'm like, that's going in. This guy is just scoring like it's crazy. Like Alex Tuck, these heroes come up, and you never know if they're going to carry it through a whole thing and be the Conn Smythe, but you always know at some moment he brought them in that series. He was the beast and helped them get along here. You need everybody pulling some weight along the whole way to win it. Pedersen's pulling his weight. He's second in scoring the whole thing, right? I guess now I think they're counting these playing rounds and stuff and all these stuff, so I'm not sure exactly what the real stats are, but you've got him with 16 points, I think, and then the Nathan McKinnon's got 20 points in 11 games, these guys. So these young bucks, man, they are flying. But these guys are superstars. Nate's obviously a superstar. I've been calling Pedersen, and people in Vancouver know it, but I've been said myself how he reminds me of Datsuk, and he's like basically my favorite player other than, Sid and Nate and my Red Wings and all that, but he's like my favorite guy. I just love this guy. And then here he is doing it, right? He's a skinny little guy, just doing well. I mean, he's just got it all. And he's got that determination, that playoff grit. So I love this kid, and he's awesome. In this Vegas Canucks series as well, there's another big point coming up, and it's Lehner. And it's his 2 shutouts in 3 games. And we mentioned last show with Marc-Andre with that whole, sideshow there going on. You could talk about he didn't want a distraction, but it was kind of a bad look for him overall. He dealt with it pretty good, we said, but, still, it's what was the whole thing. And, that whole thing where they asked him, did you know about it before it went out? And he was kind of didn't really answer very well. So it almost indicates he might have. And if that's the case, it's like, why did you kibosh that whole thing? Because now it just looks bad for him anyway. There's no way, even if Robert Lehner has a bad game, that Marc-Andre's going in, right? He's a good 2 shutouts, right? It would just be you're allowed to have one of those games because we got outplayed or whatever. Now, if he really himself, if it's all on Lehner, if he just really is wrong and bad, then he can get taken out and Marc-Andre can come in and maybe hang on to it. But even then, it's probably more relief, and then he starts the next game, Lehner. So I don't know. It's going to take they're going to have to be down 3-2 on 2 bad games maybe for him to possibly get back in. But I don't know how he's getting in now with the whole thing. Lehner looking pretty good.
He looks good. How could you can't not play him? I mean, what are you going to do? He's playing well.
Okay. I guess that's the end of that story at that point, but it is, it is the bottom line. He's playing well. What are you going to do? And we'll see how that plays out. This is all the drama of the playoffs and the excitement of it. Now, what about this Tampa-Boston one? So now, as per our picks, we're looking pretty good at the moment, 3-1 against the Boston Bruins. But I don't want to be too, punching our ticket to the 3rd round for Tampa on our pick, because Boston has been known to come back on teams that are up, down 3-1 or 3-0 on them in history, and we don't want to be getting nipped by the Bruins, as some people have, getting too excited early. But it is looking like that first game, you had Boston coming out and they just looked like, oh, is our pick okay, Josh? We picked Tampa. Boston looking pretty strong like they did in that previous round. But then Tampa came back with a strong game. And then since then have won the other 2. It was an overtime one that got them even, but then they came out and it was either game 3 or 4 where you tweeted about the touchdown. Tell me what's going on there. What's going on in this series for you?
I don't. It's so funny because in the last year's playoffs, and then in the regular season, and then at the start of this year's playoffs, when Tampa was struggling a little bit, people are down in John Cooper. Oh, he's horrible. He gets out coached all the time. I don't know why they stick with him. He's going to cost us again. And then here they are, 3-1 against Boston, and they're saying, "Oh, he's doing such an amazing job coaching this team and out coaching Bruce Cassidy." And to be fair, there is some truth to that. Like in terms of other rounds, he was making some, especially last year, he was making some decisions where he didn't change a whole lot, and his team just kept getting beat, and he didn't really seem to react at all. He just sort of waited for the team to catch on.
He's like, "We're the best team, just go win." But
right.
Sometimes you got to make a move.
That's like a lot of people were giving him crap for that. I actually admire that. I actually like that a lot. And this year, John Cooper actually just said, the team is basically to the point where they're coaching themselves now. They just have figured themselves out, and I'm going to let them run with it. Mm-hmm. And it's not a bad strategy when your team's getting a touchdown in a game, like 7-1.
They know what they're doing.
But it's like, I don't know, Boston is just not even there at the moment. It's not like they're doing some things well and it's just they're not getting bounces here and there. They just don't seem to be all there. Mm-hmm. I don't understand what it is. Now that's scary about Boston is that, just like I said about Chicago, they can remember at any moment. and Tampa has not been a team that's proven themselves to be able to deal with quick turnovers and shocking adversity. They seem to struggle with dealing with that. So mm-hmm. I'm hesitant to punch my ticket. Like you said, Boston can figure it out, but I really I don't know what's happening there right now.
Again, this is another one where, it's hockey. Anything can happen. We'll see how it plays out. And it's just exciting to see how it plays out. What is going to happen in game 5, and beyond. Well, what about this New York Islanders and Philadelphia one? Philly is up 2-1 as far as I know. Now the second game's on, the game 4 is on as we speak. You probably know the score of that. I don't at the moment. But is Philly irritating you or what with this 2-1 lead in the series?
Well, hold on here.
Okay.
The Islanders are up 2-1.
Oh. Well.
The Islanders won game 3, 3-1.
Oh, I felt like I was watching that. I just watched Philly win again. Okay, the Islanders up 2-1. All right, great.
Philly won game 2 in overtime.
Yes. Hawerchuk scored in overtime, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was okay. But anyway, so I just want to put that in just to show, I know something. But okay, sorry. Well, so at the moment that's 2-1, but I mean 2-1 either way, it doesn't say anything, right? Somebody's going to be up 2-1 in any series, so it's never about, oh yeah, we're looking good in that one, Josh. Our pick is safe there. So 2-1. Anything of note in that series for you?
Well, of note is even when Philadelphia won, they were up by 2 goals in the third period, and the Islanders forced overtime. And I think they were actually up 3-0. And I remember I have a friend who covers the Islanders for Eyes on Isles, and before that comeback happened, in the third period, he tweeted that earlier this year, the Islanders were down 3-0 to Philadelphia, and they came back in that game too. And I actually remember watching that game, and I remember specifically tweeting about that game and just feeling like the Islanders were going to come back that game. I don't know why that game stands out, but I didn't remember it until he mentioned it before this comeback. It was 3-0, and he says, "You know what? Last time it was 3-0. This happened." And I was like, "Oh yeah!" And sure enough, they came back, and they lost in overtime, but still, I mean, it just shows you that Philadelphia is ripe for the taking for the Islanders, and obviously, it's working out that way. They get stifled. The Islanders outshoot them. They seem to outplay them. It's like Philadelphia is a dog that was all brave. They saw another dog coming up the street and started barking at it. Oh, it's coming near my lawn. And then they realized, oh, that dog is pretty intimidating looking. I better back. I'll still yap from my front step behind my owner's leg. but I'm not going anywhere near that dog anymore. And that's kind of what the Flyers seem to be like.
That dog is the Barry Trotz New York Islanders, right? I mean, they're
exactly like Barry Trotz. What a guy! He's got his Islanders playing the right way. They're playing the way he wants, and it's a winning formula.
Yep. Now, it's certainly not one. It's a winning formula. It's not one. It is only 2-1 in the series, although there's something going on in the game right now, but I have no idea. So as far as I know, but yeah, so it's a tight series. And again, it's something we're going to have to see play out and see what happens. But I mean, we picked the Isles for a reason, and we'll see how it goes. The last one here, this Dallas, Colorado, it was 2-0 for our pick Colorado. You had them all the way to the Cup final. I generally have them there. I said I have to reevaluate every series and see how I feel about matchups and how they're doing and all kinds of factors. It's a battle to get through 4 series and win the Cup. But I typically have them as Cup favorite, and they're down 2-0 all of a sudden to this Dallas machine that we were both kind of nervous of. And it was like, ooh, 2-0's a tough one. Now they did win game 3 to make it more normal. 3-0 would have been pretty brutal. And now it is game 4 is over. You told me, right? Like you know,
yes.
and listeners will know, and listeners know that it's either 2-2 in the series or 3-1 for Dallas. I do not. Right. And this brings up another good point about this stuff. You had something you wanted to say about avoiding scores and all this stuff and the general etiquette. I got something too, but you go ahead and tell me how you see these days.
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a job for, the last 10 years, where I worked with very few people. And I worked with 2 people. It was 2 guys, 2 older guys, and they didn't watch a lot of hockey. So it was pretty easy for me to avoid the scores. And I made it very clear to them, I don't know, I haven't seen the games the night before. I watched them in the day or later on. I taped them. Don't tell me the scores. And they got on board with that. They teased me a little bit. And I remember, I'll never forget one time, I'm a Patriots fan too, and this guy, one of the guys watches football. And he said something about, did you see the Patriots game yesterday? And I said, no, I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to watch it tonight. And he goes, okay, well, I won't tell you the score, but you're going to like it. And I was like, no, like, you don't do that. So,
are you kidding me?
Anyway, I didn't take that joke very well, and he understood after that. Okay, well, I'm not going to say anything anymore. And it's so, if we have to do our part, you don't go on social media and stuff, but the people around you, when I go somewhere, I make it very clear now. When I go to work in the morning, people know, oh, he doesn't often watch the games as they happen. I do now. I do in the playoffs, but there's a lot of times, especially as an Oilers fan, where I'm just not staying up for the game, and then I'll try and catch it some other time.
Yep.
And they all know that, so they'll ask me. They've gotten in the habit now of, hey, we're going to talk about this, or did you see this, before they talk about it. And it's very nice. They don't have to be that way, and I have to be careful about who I talk to and where I go in the morning. But they are very nice about it because I make that clear. Now, Denise, my wife, gets kind of frustrated about it, but she's really good. She's awesome about it, because we'll come home and I'll want to start watching a game. And especially times where I want to like switch TVs or switch from my phone to the TV or something. And there'll be that transition period where, okay, I've been taping it on TV and I'm watching it on my phone, and now the kids are in bed so I can watch it on TV. But when I switch over, is the game going to pop on? And so I'll tell her, I say, can you turn the TV on, please? And set it to whatever, and I'll just stand there and be like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And she does it, and she sets it up, and she'll get this look on her face. She'll always wait so that she can know the score, just to have it over on me, to look at me, but she'll never say it is. Or
oh no, okay.
She'll be talking. It's pretty good though. She'll do that for me, or I'll tell her, like, I'll just be like, could you do me a favor and just tell me how much time is left in the game here, because I need to know how much difference there is between my phone and this, or whatever it is. And she'll play along. And I don't know, it's nice to have a partner in crime like that just deals with it. But she also knows the other thing about it is that you can't say anything Like, you can't even give like one word or any hint, because we'll always read into it, and that's the hard part for people that are
read into it. I know that I had a policy when it's games where it's like teams I would like the Red Wings or the Penguins are playing like in a playoff game, in a big game or something like that. If you know the score, you're not welcome in my home, right? Because I can read into whatever. It's almost like I can feel you when I starting to get excited. We scored. I'm like, yeah, high five, and the person they're like, yeah. And meanwhile, it's like, oh, this poor man. Like I know they're coming back and losing, or I just know we're losing or something. And then whatever else. So honestly, and the only person I have to deal with in that would be my own wife. Obviously, you're talking about. I live a lot. I am lucky to work with some people. Two guys that are older don't watch hockey. I'm lucky to live in South Korea, where people they couldn't even name an NHL team, most people, and they call the game ice hockey, right? So I mean, I'm constantly telling my students, they're like, ice hockey, and I was like, ice hockey's popular in Canada. I was like, yeah, it's hockey. There's only hockey, and then there's field hockey. You have to specify that it's field hockey. For them, hockey is field hockey, and then ice hockey is our game. So I'm like, I mean, that's how far away they are. So I'm pretty good. So it's all up to me just to stay away from Facebook. Because I go on Facebook and people are posting, yeah, they whatever. And ooh. But my wife, of course, is on Facebook in the morning. And I tell her sometimes, it got to be early on. It was like, if you know, don't say anything. She knows that. But yet, sometimes I come when I go, do you know the score? Do you know? And she's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, oh. Okay, well, just go ahead and tell me. Like, I really can't even handle watching the game when she's sitting there, trying to pretend like she doesn't know or something. It's just too horrible. And then hopefully she says they won, and at least I can half enjoy it. At least that I know I'm going to just relax and enjoy a game they won. But for the most part, it's like, high alert today, hon. Don't go on any social media. I'm coming home after work today and watching the games, because they come on in the morning for me in Korea, and then I have to watch them at night because I work. So and she just tries to stay off, right? And then sometimes she's done even well to lie to me and say something. Goes, I don't know, right? But she did know. But at least I can have that. So I appreciate all the stuff. Now, if we're going into what people ought to do as far as posting on social media, that's all fair game, because in reality, it's up to you to avoid it. In what's going on live in the real world as far as the games and all that. But as far as people come up to people and say, hey, see the game, or making a comment about it or anything, it's like, guys, what are you doing? I mean, how could you be ignorant of this basic form of etiquette, right? Now, I don't want to be too Seinfeld and say, try to determine how many days after, right? You got to give a guy at least a day, I would say, because they might not watch till the next morning or the next evening. Like if you're a late night Oilers game and you go to bed, and then you can only watch it the evening later. So maybe a couple days. And finally it's like, well, it's your problem for not watching a game in a couple days. But you could argue, times in there, but at least you got to give some people some time, and you got to be really careful. And even the type of things you say, as you said, matter. Like I have to deal with my friend Jason and stuff. We just write, our only text is done. It's not like, did you see the game, or did you watch the Leafs, or did you see the Jays or the Penguins or whatever, or whatever, like, oh, I'm this far in. What about you? Because it's almost like, why are you so mad? Why are you so interested whether I've seen it or not? Like it's, you can read into everything. It's like, did something happen? Oh my God. So we just say done. That's our thing. And it means I've seen the game. You're free to share make any comments you want, So you got to get these codes with all your friends and stuff. I don't know what you guys are trying to pull at home. Again, this is something maybe you'll share on the comment section with Josh and I here. Like, what are you guys doing? What do you think is good, proper etiquette? And do you have any stories of people just totally blowing it? And did you lose your mind? And did people think you were overreacting for it? I don't think so. I don't think I think it's a completely brutal behavior to be talking about scores and stuff in the office the next day and stuff without checking with people.
There's three things I want to add. One, somebody blew the AFC championship game for me, where the Patriots actually lost, but they lost by because their kicker missed a point after on their first touchdown, and they needed a 2-point conversion to tie the game. But they scored a touchdown with like 0 seconds left.
Laces out? Did the setter have it laces out? Okay.
He may. Anyway,
sorry, and then they tied it up.
For me. Mm-hmm. I was so mad, and I was visibly mad because I warned everybody around me that. Anyway, that was one that I'll never forget. Two, people that work that run the NHL app. You got it so that we can run scores off. You do all that. But now there's the one thing is the time bar at the bottom when you load the game up. It gives away whether the game went to overtime or not. So you can tell whether a team makes a comeback or not. It drives me crazy that is still a thing. Don't tell us how long the recording is if you're not going to tell us what the score is. We have it set that way for a reason. We don't want to know.
I've written to them at least a couple times over a couple of different years. I've written to the games and said, look, I'm enjoying the app, blah, 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 etc. Help me out with this. What is going on? Why can you not just make it this ridiculous bar that looks like so far, like you can never tell, right? Why does it, like, I just go, well, I tell my hand, I go, oh, my wife, like, oh, this is, I don't know what's going on. I can see that there's no overtime, but it's like, ugh. Or I can see there is overtime, or maybe it's a handshake at the end of the series. I don't know yet, but oh God. And it's just so easy to tell what's going on. So it's like, well, if you're down 2 in the third and there's no overtime, unless they score 2 early ones, you know you're losing. So it just sucks, right? And I don't understand how these tech guys can't figure this one out for people. It blows my mind.
And now they have this new thing where, you can either put Game Center, okay, show me the game, it'll give you the stats and all that, or you can hit watch. And I hit watch because it'll start the game at the start of the game and you won't know. Now they have this thing, when you hit that, there's a stat bar that comes up. It picks a player from one of the teams and gives their stats. So I was like, are they revealing to us now when you hit watch who wins the game by whose stats they put up? And I've tested that throughout the playoffs, and I have realized now that the team that has the player up here doesn't necessarily win every game. So I have figured that much out. So it's but for a minute I was panicked on that. Mm-hmm. The third thing that I want to mention to you, it's one of those things for you, I feel extra bad sometimes because, there was the one Tampa 5 overtime game where I texted you. I said, look, have you seen the game or do you know what's going on? And you said no. And I went like, I don't care. I'm telling you anyway. It's still exciting. It was one of the only times where I broke the code and just told you. But what I felt bad for you, I'm going back to the darkest day, Elimination Friday of the play-in round when we lost Nashville and Pittsburgh right in a row. And there was a game before that had upset me too. 3 right in a row. And I didn't know if I could handle anymore. And after I went through all that, I realized it's like, 9:00 in the morning in Korea. Poor Matt still has no idea any of this happens. And I've already been through the up and down and the Oilers were eliminated and everything. And it's like, you don't know this is coming. And it's worse for me because I didn't know it was coming for me, but I know it's coming for you.
Yeah,
and I have no way to protect you from that.
You might almost put me out of my misery and just say, it's over. Like one stroke and slit my throat and be like, oh, okay, don't watch. It's all over today. Just there's no hockey. Okay. Because it really was a stressful time watching that. It ruined my day. But I don't know. This other one too, this is another one now with the networks. They're always showing that banner at the bottom, like the ticker, whatever they call that, excuse me. And they show all the scores all the time. And even when you're watching like highlights or you're watching another game out of turn, you're seeing the scores, the other thing. I'm like, oh God, dude, what is this? NHL this? And it's like NFL. Okay. And let it go. And you got to like avoid these things. People not hip to the idea that a lot of people are watching on demand. A lot of people are not watching live anymore. Like get over yourselves. At least the people with the app, like, could do something to cover that or something. If you're taking the broadcast feeds, cover it over. Like there's a lot of considerations you could do. And I don't see how, if they're able to overcome so many technical things that they can't make a time bar that doesn't reveal overtime to us, or they can't cover scores on the ticker, like just stuff like that. Think about the people who are consuming on your app or your on-demand service. Come on.
That's another pro tip for people in our situation that watch on demand is sometimes if there's 2 games you want to watch, you have to consider what order you watch them in because the results of the game may be revealed by the announcers or anything. They'll say in the earlier game today, so-and-so beat so-and-so. So you have to plan out which games you watch too. That's a pro tip for anyone who's trying to watch these games after the fact.
Yep. When I watch the highlight version, Josh, I go into the NHL app, I see the order of the games, and then I go to that one first. I don't watch the YouTube highlights of the other one first because I'll get spoiled. So right. I watch them in order. That's a huge pro tip, right? If you take anything out today, at least you got something. I'll tell you, Josh, I'll just say again, now I have an example of that thing that I'm going to play for everybody that I was telling last time. Another thing that's annoying me is these highlight packages, they're showing me the tick down of the seconds before the overtime, just like this.
7 seconds remain. It is McAvoy holding and will be content with OT.
Do you see what I'm talking about? We don't need to see this thing. Why do I need that? It is not a highlight. Anyway, I mean, so I don't know. I'm just getting annoyed about all kinds of stuff now. But, you know, etiquette, people, etiquette in general, and common sense is what I'm hoping for in a lot of areas of hockey here and areas of life.
Well, while we're on the subject of things that annoy us, I'll throw one more of it.
Okay, go one more.
Back in the days when wooden sticks would break, they would splinter. They would shatter into pieces. The sticks today break into 2 clean pieces that you could lick. They're so cleanly broken. So why do we still use the expression, "Oh, and his stick imploded"? No.
It's shattered. It's shattered.
Like,
shatter, if you look at the dictionary, it means to break into multiple pieces. That's what shatter means. So, you know, which implies that it's hard to put back together. It's really destroyed. These are not shattered sticks. They're not imploded sticks. They didn't explode. They just, you know, snapped in 2. He snapped his stick. I'll take that point. It's a broken stick. Well, that's all from us for now then. I guess we're going to see. I'm going to have to, you know, everybody here, all the listeners know, you know, I'm going to have to find out now. I'm going to go off and see these highlights. Probably, I don't think I'll have time to watch the full game, see what happened in the Colorado and Dallas one. Is it 2-2 or is it 3-1? Don't look at me like that. I can see what's going on in your eyes there, Josh. You blew it. Oh my God. Anyway, I shouldn't have asked. It's my fault. So guys, you know, that's the end of it. Let us know what you think about any of these things. Can we solve these problems? Can somebody write to the Game Center people and get some of these things fixed? Do you have any suggestions? I'd really love it because these are real problems for me. Josh, I guess we'll talk to you next time. Everybody else, see you again next time. Enjoy the playoffs.